Hey, what's going on, guys? So this is something new I'm going to be starting on my channel, and it's basically a playlist where I talk about comic book based characters that are well known and some more obscure, and I conceptualize a video game for that character and what it would look like. So I pretty much break that down in three major pieces. The first major piece is whether this character could even have a video game. Would it even make sense for this character to have a video game, and who would develop it? That's the first part. The second part is how would the game work? Would it be an open world game? Would it be a fighting game? Would it be a strategy based game? What kind of game would it be? Part 3 is what kind of mechanics would be in the game to make it more interesting and appeal to a larger audience. So I already have 3 of these videos ready, and the way I'm going to be doing this is I'm going to upload these 3 videos at some point within this month, or at the latest by next month. And if these videos do well, then I'll upload more of these, because I have a bunch of ideas planned out. So if you guys like these, I'll upload more. If you don't like them, then I'll just leave it at that. So I'm going to be starting off by discussing some of the more well-known characters first, and I'll touch up on more obscure characters later on if you guys enjoy this. So we're going to be starting off talking about Green Arrow. So the first question, would this game even work? And the answer is yes, because Green Arrow is a lot like Batman, and Batman has had some of the most successful video games out of any superhero because of the Arkham games. So I'd say the Green Arrow could definitely have a Batman type of video game, and I'd say that Rocksteady is the best developer to make this Green Arrow video game, just because they have the strongest grasp on DC Comics based games. So question 2 is, how would this Green Arrow game work? What kind of game would it be? So I'd say, for starters, easily it could be an open world third person game, exactly like how the Batman Arkham games are. It could be set in Star City, and I wouldn't say it should be set in modern time. I'd say it should be set in the future. I'd say probably about like 2040, and Oliver Queen has been the Arrow for about 20-25 years at this point. At this stage in his life, he's gone through several team member changes. Some of them have died, some of them have retired and moved on. And his current teammate is Artemis. As for the actual story, it can take cues from a lot of comics, specifically from Longbow Hunters and The Kill Machine, just to throw some examples out. If you guys haven't read those comics, I strongly recommend you guys go read those, because those are some of the most excellent Green Arrow comics, just some of the best ones out there. And obviously, since we're using Artemis, it wouldn't be exactly like the comics, because in there's Black Canary and some other characters, so it wouldn't be exactly like that, but they can throw their own version and twist onto however they want. So that I definitely say that these 2 stories could work pretty well. And with that said, they can use their own set of villains too, so they can use Deathstroke, Ravager, Count Vertigo, Komodo, Merlin, those kind of villains. Lastly, I'd say the best element to the story is the conflicting elements between Oliver and Artemis. At this point, Oliver has started killing people to get the answers that he wants, while Artemis doesn't kill people and gets the answers she wants a different way. So these 2 characters have a conflict between them, how they're always arguing about whether Oliver should kill or shouldn't, and whether Artemis should kill or she shouldn't. And that'll create a nice dynamic between the 2 characters, and it'll help further develop and progress the story and the characters, in my opinion. I think that would work pretty well. The last question is, what kind of gameplay mechanics could be included? For starters, I'd say there should definitely be some kind of flashback mechanic, like maybe after you hit a certain point in the story, it triggers a flashback because of whatever conflict Oliver or Artemis is having, and then you have to go back into each of the characters' flashbacks, and you have to do certain things to figure out what to do in the present time to help you get rid of that problem. Kind of like how the Arrow TV show does it, and it would be a nice change from the Batman games. The Batman games have never really done that. They haven't really given us a flashback mechanic. The next thing that they could add, which I'd say it's optional, they don't need to have it, is the day and night cycle. Obviously the game would take place at night, but they could throw in a day cycle too, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it revolves around Oliver as the mayor or something. But they could they could throw whatever they want in there. I don't know what they could do, but it would be nice to have a day and night cycle. The next few mechanics I'm going to be touching up on combat. And the combat can be a mix between close quarter, mid-range, and long-range combat, and with the use of his bow and arrow. And I think they could definitely learn from Horizon Zero Dawn. If you guys haven't played that game, by the way, it's amazing. It's just an excellent story, and it's just a ton of fun. So I definitely think that they could take cues from that with how their bow and arrow system worked. Like how you have different arrows for different type of enemies. Like you have your fire arrows, shock arrows, ice arrows, EMP arrows, stuff like that. And I'd also say that you could have different type of costumes for different types of environments. So let's say, Oliver and Artemis are fighting like a whole just group of bad guys. Like some of them are armored thugs, and some of them are just like straight up, just like basic thugs, And everybody has like different types of weapons, and it's just on the street. It's just everybody's just going all out. So they could have some kind of like combat armor for Oliver and Artemis in that. And then let's say you're taking a more stealthier approach. You can have some kind of stealthier costumes or gear for these characters in that type of scenario. So each scenario defines what kind of gear or costume that the character wears. Next would be the Nemesis system, similar to how Shadow of Mordor did it, where each time you die, you come back, but the enemies get stronger. So it creates a much more challenging experience for the player, and that would definitely be needed, because the Arkham games aren't really like that challenging. So it would be add a nice level of challenge to these games. Next, which I think is definitely needed, is a seamless character transition mechanic, where you can switch between Oliver and Artemis at any given point in the game. That brings me to my next mechanic, which is a dual play system that the Arkham Knight game had. They could still keep that from the Arkham game, but maybe improve upon that. So those two are definitely, I think, definitely needed for this kind of game. Those two mechanics. And then on top of that, you'll have your basic combat and stealth mechanics that have existed in the Arkham games, but with their own like Green Arrow version and twist on it. So I think those will be there. The last combat mechanic I want to touch on is a mix between a form of transportation and combat. And what I mean by that is, apart from running and fast traveling throughout the map, let's give Oliver and Artemis some kind of vehicle, like the Batmobile, but like a motorcycle or something. And it's not just to ride around the city, but it's not going to have a battle mode either. But instead, it can be used in combat. And what I mean by that is, let's say for example, there's like a truck full of bad guys that's like driving up to you, it's approaching, and then you're driving on the other side of the road, and you pull up next to them, and you can perform some kind of vehicle takedown, or like, I don't know, passenger takedown, or whatever they want to call it, or you can hop onto the other truck, kill some of the bad guys, and then hop back on your bike and just be on your way, something like that. And I think that'd be really cool to have. It should be kind of like how Far Cry does it. If you guys have played those games, how they let you jump from one vehicle to another and just like stab the guy, and just take his vehicle, or just jump back into your vehicle, something like that. That'd be a nice feature to have. Based on all of this information, I would say that a Green Arrow game is easily possible. There's enough information and enough ideas and comics out there that they can take from to build a Green Arrow game. And Green Arrow is a great character. The character has a lot of love. It has a lot of fans out there. So I definitely see that from like a financial standpoint, it would make sense to do it too, because people would definitely buy that. I would definitely buy a game like that, especially if Rocksteady makes it. But yeah, I definitely see a Green Arrow game happening at some point. There's definitely a lot of groundwork laid down for it, and it can work really well if it's given enough time and the right developer to make the game. But that's all I've got for you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Would you be interested in playing a Green Arrow game? Why or why not? And if you liked the video, as always, remember to smack that like button. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button to see more content like this. I'll see you guys next time.